This video is sponsored by the Design Mechanism, the makers of Mythras. Mythras is a registered trademark of the Design Mechanism Inc., used with permission. All rights reserved. Yes, let me turn everybody on. Yes, we are starting to stream Sloth. Yeah, is stream starting. We are here. Ooh. Hopefully you can hear us. Mini raid. It was a fantastic raid, Milk. Thank you so much for raiding us right at the beginning of the adventure. Thank you so much. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Mythras. Where this is part 2 of an adventure called the Great Boar Hunt. We left the party last week about to go off to a party, and I'll sort of like bring you up to date what is happening about everything. But before then, I'm going to allow the players an opportunity for them to say who they are and who they will be playing tonight. And as always, we go straight over to Mr. Chuggerwugger.
Hi guys, I'm Chuggerwugger. The character that I play is called Gulliver. He's young, just over the age of 18 years old, bit scrawny, short and ginger. He wasn't originally from the land of Odis. He travelled across here in search of magic on the quest of his old master, Master Healy. When he arrived on Odis, he found that to practice the art of sorcery, he had to be a member of the Order. He joined that so that he wasn't considered a renegade anymore. The particular order that he chose was that of the Kraken, the Blue Order. It specialises in spells involving communication, transportation, teleportation. A sorcerer has the abilities to shape its spells. He can change various aspects to suit his needs. He can change things like the range, the magnitude, the number of targets that it can affect. He can even combine several spells into a single casting. He also has minor cantrips that he uses based on the folk magic school of Mythras, which he uses. Nowhere near as powerful as the sorcery spells. He was recently injured in the battle with the necromancer, where he took a rather nasty spell to one of his legs, causes him to walk around with a limp now, and he's not as maneuverable as he once was. That's my character Gulliver, and I shall pass on to Longshanks EPG.
Thank you very much, Chuggerwugger. Hi guys, I'm Longshanks EPG, and I play the character Hengist. He is a burly warrior and clad out in heavy armour, also not from Odis. He also came over with Gulliver on the same ship from a distant land. He originally came over in the search of his sister, who'd been taken on the eve of her wedding. And for quite a long time, he was tracking her across Odis along with the party until there was a big fight. Hengist went down and she stepped through a portal with the barbarian. And then after that, all the sort of Hengist's leads that he's managed to find so far have all sort of dried up, although he is still half keeping an eye out. But recently, he has made it back to Lindo, where the party are based at the moment. He's bought a house in the noble district, and he has recently had an invitation to join a noble house, but I will not say any more. And I shall pass this on to Medivac, because he's not paying attention.
Yo, Damn right there, boy. Hi, everybody. I'm Medivac, and I play Hasra Khan. He is from Odes, unlike these immigrants that are not. He's from the northern steppes of Odes. He is a tracker, a scout. You will see him. Is very. Well, he's not very thin, but he's very lithe, and he wears quilted armor, which is usually of grey nature, padded, which protects him from head to toe. His favourite weapon is a short spear and a scimitar, or weapons. He does love to be outside. He hates cities. He's not comfortable there whatsoever. His tracking skills are appalling in there. He couldn't find his backside with two hands when he's in a city. One thing to notice about Hasra, he has a black arm. Whenever he takes an arm off, either from hand to shoulder, is all black. And that's from the first time he met this group, this wonderful party, where he tried to take what was a seed away from Jeremiah, if memory serves me. He was trying to grab it, and Hasra grabbed it and tried to take it away, and it burnt all his arm, and now it's blackened. It doesn't impede him in any way. It's just the sight of it, so he likes to keep it completely covered. One day he will cure this. He's joined the Brotherhood, which is a semi-secret or quite secretive group who keep a track on all what affects biomes and areas. So if a creature migrates into a certain area, how that affects the original inhabitants of that area, and things like that, and how things change. And they're always monitoring the history of nature and what is happening and how things are changing. And with that, I shall pass that on to Mr. Pickles.
I am Mr. Pickles, and I play our friendly theist, Bartleby Fumus. He wasn't always a theist. Early in his life, he was on the path to try and become a famed bard, but unfortunately, the universe didn't agree. Bandits broke his hands, and he joined the Church of Amriel. Amriel is the light moon goddess of this setting, and she goes over a handful of domains, but Bartleby is able to work miracles through her in the areas of healing, protection, removing poison, disease, making sure people aren't fatigued, or inflicting a pause of energy on people who are evil. Beyond his abilities to work miracles and prayers through Amriel, he also has quite a bit of mundane healing knowledge, or practical healing knowledge, I should say. He knows quite a bit about monsters and the history of this land, since he is from here. And he has a current obsession with trying to improve the quality of the poorer areas of Lindo. He's in the process of giving a speech to the Church of Amriel to allocate funds and to help out the lower Lindo. So going to a party and making a good impression might help that. And I'll pass it on to Mr. Enwells.
Can I just say that when your characters come up, I try to put your character sheet in the middle, and then when I'm talking, it sort of like cycles through a whole load of other sheets, and I got really panicky because I couldn't find Bartleby's sheet, and then I realised it just says Bart. Yeah, that I agree with Sloth. I think Sloth might be from your stream, Sugarwugger, is he? He came in with milk.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, he's not on my stream. He's been in my stream.
Oh, fantastic. So with this, in the chat, they're just talking about your cam, Chugwugger, because in your stream you mentioned that you felt that it was a rule that it had to be on. So I posted in Discord saying it's not a problem, and people can have their cams on and off. And gave a whole.
Can you just mute your mic, Medivac? I just can't hear what he's saying. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
And so we had a chat in Discord because I didn't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable if they're whether or not they wanted to be on chat on cam or not. So I sort of like gave people three options, or I think it was 3 options. So I can uncover your cam. That's absolutely fine. But I don't want to put you in a position that you would prefer it off, if that makes sense. And Sloth was just saying you don't need to do something if you're not comfortable with it, which I totally, utterly agree with. So would you like your cam covered?
No, you can leave it how it is.
Okay, cool. And then everybody's happy, etc. So yeah, it's a really exciting part of the adventure. In the last adventure, the last session, we started up the adventure, and it started off by Hengist getting an invitation to participate in a boar hunt. Now, there's actually within Lindo, there are certain houses, and you should all have that information available to you. So there's what's known as the House of Macduffs, the House of Amory, and then the House of Galot. And each one of these noble houses almost like pit against each other for ruling factions of the noble hill where Hengist, the noble warrior, lives. And in the last adventure, Hengist was asked to choose one to sort of like align himself with, to make a choice. And he decided to go with the House Galot, I think it was. So this house is a noble house that has got through to where they are through hard work. They actually spread their wealth over a number of areas, including metals, inventions, and weapons. It's a very, very honest house, and it's a house that provides the armaments for Count Bastion, the leader of Lindo, free of charge. It's not really the most rich house, but it is the one that is most honest. And I think that sort of like dictated why Hengist wanted to actually go and join them. So at the end of the last adventure, you got invited, if I'm correct, to a party. And there's going to be a party at Lindo, on the hill. So just to remind you, this is what Lindo actually looks like. And if you're new to the stream, then I'll try to explain things as we go along. So up here, this is the Noble Hill. And this is where Hengist lives. The rest of Lindo around here, this is sort of like the lower area. And then beyond the city walls are where the slums are, which is where Bartleby does the majority of his work. So we got to the part that you are due to go to the party. And I left you with the discussion about what you were going to wear. Okay, because then I said to you to go out, use the rule book to sort of like buy some clothes and sort of like decide what you were going to wear. And we've had a few pictures in the Discord channel going off, which I quite like the option that I gave for Bartleby in there, but he's gone for something slightly different. So hopefully you have arranged your party clothes and you've got them on all ready to go to the party. So I thought it'd be a good way to start off by me asking certain ones of you what are you actually wearing and how you look. And because Mr. Bartleby sent it to me in Discord, I'm going to go with you first, Mr. Bartleby. Tell me, what do you look like? What are you wearing going to this high class, high society party tonight?
Well, I presume it's still sort of the winter season.
Yes, it is.
So Bartleby has some heavier furs on. He tried to get nicer furs and well-made furs, or stitched together. But he has a nice winter coat with a little bit of silver threading inlaid into it. He has boots and cap. All of these are with a little bit of fur and silver in it. Silver to represent moonlight of his goddess. He's got nice boots, as I said, tunic and trousers and a vest with some extra shoes, because I imagine once he arrives, He'd remove the boots, put on shoes, 'cause he's not
Ooh.
walking barefoot. Remove the winter coat, so he'd have a shirt and vest on while at the party.
And what sort of like paraphernalia are you taking with you? I presume that you're not taking your trusty club, or are you taking your trusty?
The equipment that I'm bringing is I'm bringing my knife, even though it's not too good. It's more metaphorical to make sure Bartleby keeps his mind on edge, with the plan at least. And I'm also bringing the potion of good fortune.
Fantastic. So, what about Hengist? It's your chief party goer. So what is Hengist wearing?
Hengist has because he normally wears his hair sort of like in a bit of a ponytail anyway. So he's had that brushed out and washed and all that sort of thing. And he's freshly trimmed his beard, although he still wears it sort of like a middle sort of length, but not sort of like a full beard. It's kind of like a fairly sort of like close cropped beard. And he's had that washed because it probably has
perfumed.
And he's got a little bit of sort of like wood scented.
Nice.
There as well. Clothes he's wearing quite a tight fitting sort of like white, very nice little white linen shirt, which is then covered over with a dark green doublet. And then he's wearing sort of like tight fitting grey trousers and sort of like knee-high supple leather boots. He's got a belt, dark leather belt, where he's got his dagger attached to, sort of like across the back, so it goes like across the hip, to the hip, the base of the spine. And then he's wearing quite a nice sort of cloak, which comes down to sort of like mid-thigh length, which he's wearing it's like pinned open across. And then he's got it pinned open on his right-hand shoulder.
Nice.
And he scoured the silversmiths in Lindo and eventually found a clasp that looked sort of like kind of like his fountain's crest of a rearing horse, but it's probably more like a horse's head and neck and that sort of thing. So he's got that clasp on there, and then he's got a little bit of fur on sort of like the edge of the cloak, to the top half of the edge of the cloak, because it is obviously winter.
So very nice. And you mentioned that he has his knife.
Yes.
Is that the only weapon?
Yeah, it's a party, so he's not going to be taking his hand and a half sword. That might be taken a little bit badly, but he has got his knife with him.
The thing is, I mean, if anything goes wrong at the party, I'm sure there'll be some makeshift weapons to sort of like grasp.
He might make a weapon. He might break a chair and use a chair leg or something like that.
Or Hasra could actually grab the coat stand as a spear. So let's go on to Hasra. What's Hasra wearing today?
Hasra has gone out with much disdain, and he has bought himself, instead of going for usual grey padded armour, his padded outfit you'll see in the picture of Hasra, he's gone out and bought white. And with that, rather than wearing the actual mask head that he's got a turban, and in the turban you'll see a peacock feather just coming out. He doesn't like it because when he's out and about, he will be spotted a mile away in the wilderness with this thing sticking out of his head. So he's not happy about it. But then he's also bought himself a cloak, which is a fur cloak, just to go over his shoulders, keep him warm. Again, it's just more for show than anything else. And he's wearing his scimitar.
Right.
It's one thing he does have. It's in his usual place, because his scimitar is something is more, he doesn't use it that much. It's there. It's more like an accessory to him.
Okay.
Whereas his short spear, and he spent many an hour deciding to leave his short spear at home at his hut in the forest. But he has done it. It was hard, but he's left it behind. Yes.
I often imagine Hasra sort of like turning up at Hengist's house and Hengist saying, "I've got you a new hat to wear for the party." and there's this turban with this peacock feather that you're sort of like thinking,
you can literally see on Hasra's face he's so uncomfortable. He doesn't like it. It just does not fit. But he's trying his best to fit in because of Hengist.
Yeah.
Hengist is his comrade, so he's not happy, but he's trying to fit in.
Okay, and finally, what about Gulliver? What is Gulliver wearing for tonight's party?
Well, Gulliver's never really been to anything like this, and he's a bit unsure what to wear. So what he'll probably do, the day before, or he'll probably go to Hengist's house, and not with everybody else, because he doesn't want to look like he doesn't know anything, but he wants to seek Hengist's advice on what he should wear, and whether or not Hengist can actually recommend anywhere for him to buy this, to buy the things. But whilst he also wants to ask him about, because he's a bit unsure how to act, and even though Hengist gave him a bit of false information last time about what he should be calling people, he wants to be at least be able to put on a fairly good show, and even if it means calling people sir. So yeah, Gulliver's going to ask Hengist's advice on what he should be wearing.
Okay. So Hengist will probably walk with Gulliver down into town to where he bought his clothing, so like earlier on in the week.
Yeah.
And say this is the tailor that I went to. I would highly recommend it.
But I'm not a noble person.
That's all right.
I don't want to seem noble.
I'm sure he will have slightly more sort of lower.
What does it mean by retainer? Does it mean I'm a servant?
A comrade. That's another way of saying comrade, or member of a party.
I can imagine the tailor probably dressing Gulliver as a mini Hengist. Sort of like
Hengist isn't going to say no.
Everything that Hengist is wearing, just smaller, and without.
I want something blue. And I don't want a hat or anything with a feather in it.
And the tailor's sort of like there, and he's sort of like saying, but you need to have a hat with a feather. It isn't. All parties require hats with feathers. I'm thinking some kind of blue doublet for you, young sir, and maybe some over-the-boots pantaloons to make you look rather special on this grand evening. And maybe something with a high collar, with some kind of flamboyant tie around the neck.
Well, I don't want a tie. I'll take a blue doublet and some.
And boots. This outfit is desperately in need of boots. Maybe some posh suede boots, or the finest goatskin boots, dyed with blueberries from the forest, freshly squeezed by my own hand.
Blue boots?
Yes. And he sort of like goes out the back and comes back with some sort of like just over the ankle boots made out of goat skin. It tends to have, it's not a deep blue. It seems to be almost like more of an eggshelly blue colour. And he sort of like says, with some fine white stockings for you, young man. I can see this will be the most greatest, the most fantastic, the most flamboyant outfit of the evening. You are sure to get lucky, my young man.
Word of advice, Gulliver. I would never wear white trousers to a party.
But white stockings. But white stockings are so attractive. It really shows off the musculature of the calves and up to those fine knees you have.
It looks very expensive.
I am sure we can come to some form of arrangement. especially if they come back in the same state of repair. I have few outfits that can fit one as little as yourself.
So I could maybe hire it for just for an evening.
Well, we can see how it goes. Let's get you into it now, shall we? And he sort of like ushers you round the back and almost like helps you put your outfit on, and then brings you out again. And Gulliver, I imagine, is quite
You sort of like walk stiffly.
Yeah, and then also he says, in one more finishing touch, and he goes off and he brings back almost like a Robin Hood style hat with a fine peacock feather in, and he's sort of like as if he's going through some kind of coronation and putting the crown of the person's head. Goes, and voila, there we have it. Fit for a king.
Gulliver will look at Hengist, and he'll say, "Do I look stupid, Hengist?" And he wants to make an insight or whatever Hengist says.
Not at all, Gulliver. I might not necessarily follow with the hat, but.
Oh, I'm not going to be wearing the hat. I don't like hats at all.
Make your insight roll.
64 standard.
Yeah. Is Hengist telling the truth or not?
Hengist is telling the truth. He thinks it looks nice apart from the hat.
Fantastic.
So he'll say, "Okay, I'll take it, but not the hat."
Oh, you will look fine, you will dazzle, and you will turn the eyes of everyone at the party, young man. Do come back and try to keep it clean. No playing in the soiled areas of the mansion, please. Try to keep it clean and of prestige condition. Then we can consider a price when you come back. Master Hengist here, you are well known in the noble area. I know your word is good when you come into my store.
That it is, yes.
So on the way back up to Hengist's, Gulliver wants to say to Hengist, the party, Hengist.
Yes, Gulliver.
Is it going to be a test, do you think?
I would have thought so. I've accepted the invitation. It's whether they want to accept me into House Galot, and
there must be other people.
There's going to be other people there as well.
But all wanting to be accepted into the other houses, and I'm sure the house that you want to be accepted into, there's going to be more than one would-be noble wanting to be accepted into it.
There could well be.
So how do you think they're going to do?
I would have thought there'd be the tests. I would have thought the test would be something to do with how the house behaves. So there'll be tests of honesty, maybe tests of strength, because of obviously we are going off to hunt boar.
Maybe we should ask Bartleby, or maybe you can ask that old gentleman who sometimes stays at your house.
Hengist, you can make a courtesy roll to see what the normal activities would be at a party of this description. Yeah, you know that this tends to be a party of, it's almost like a bragging party. Everybody gets round and everybody sort of like talks and mingles, and everybody's always trying to outdo the next person. There'll all be people who are almost like aligned to the House Galot, and so you have been accepted, but it's that socialite thing when everybody's trying to outdo everybody else to sort of like increase their rank, to actually get up at the top, or maybe to get the prize position, instead of becoming a beater for the Great Boar Hunt. You know, the people lesser down including the servants and the retainers, will probably be employed to sort of like bang metal drums or something, or pan lids to scare the boar through the forest. But it's generally a time to... You've been to parties like this, and it tends to be a time to sort of like socialize, make contacts, interact with people, really sort of like start to get your name known. Just with that courtesy skill there, what's your butler called?
I've got it written. I've got it written.
I thought that was his name.
No, it's not.
It better not be Jeeves.
No, it wasn't going to be Jeeves. It's
not going to be the Batman's butler, is it?
No.
Not Alfredo.
How about Grayson? How about Grayson?
Yeah, that's fine. Let's go with Grayson.
I thought he had it.
He probably does, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I've not got it written on my sheet. It's probably in Discord somewhere.
That's what let me just have a look.
I haven't got Discord open.
Oh, I was just reading about tentacles then. Which was the who's Desmond Flint?
No, that's a long time ago.
Oh, right. Okay, I'll carry on looking. We can find it and I can add it to the list. But
if it's about bragging rights within the house, and do you want to use some of my stories, Hengist, and just pretend it was you in it rather than me? Like the ones when I killed the giant scorpion, or when I killed the witch queen who couldn't be killed.
I wouldn't steal your stories, Gulliver.
I don't mind if it'll help you get into the house.
Part in a fair few noble deeds, a few of which I've even been paying a few bards in town to talk about. There's the time I fought off 30 muggers in the streets.
Yes, I remember that time.
There's also the time when Hasra and myself, and when we were all in Count Bastian's castle, and that huge great beast with the battle axe came out of the floor, and which we fought right in front of Count Bastian. That will be a very good story to retell.
And there's the time
the giants, and the wolves in Ubin Falls, and the lizard goblin things.
And there's the time that you dropped somebody down the stairs, which
I don't think I'll be doing that one, Gulliver.
There's also the time that you saved Bartleby.
Then there's also the time that I threw myself shield first in front of a statue breathing fire to save the party.
Yeah, so plenty to talk about. So your butler leading up to the party gives you some general information about where you're going, and he points the house out, which is quite a big noble house. I mean, it's not small by any means. He also introduces you, or tells you the names of the actual people in the house. So people might want to make a note of this. So the lord of the house and of the both the House Galot and the noble house is called Lord Ashton. And he's sort of like the lord, and then the lady of the house is a double-barreled first name, is called Harmony Lee, and it's Lee with an IGH at the end. So it's somebody who's obviously trying to make a simple name look quite a bit like bouquet instead of bucket. Harmony Lee, and that's actually hyphenated. Your butler, Hengist, actually knows the butler from the House Galot. The butler is called Perry, and Perry. And Lord Ashton and Lady Harmony Lee have twin daughters called Darcy and Dotty. Okay, both with IEs. at the end rather than Y's. Dotty has a double T in it as well. And these are, they're about 4 or 5 years old. And they apparently, you're not familiar with them. They have a very stunning likeness to Harmony Lee. Harmony Lee is said to be extremely beautiful. Some people even go as far as to blaspheme slightly and say that she almost like has the face of the moon goddess Amriel, which of course it is only taken as truth by the atheists within the Lindo. The only other thing that you know is that they rarely accept other people into the house for the boar hunt. So it appears at this stage that they've made somewhat of an exception for you, Hengist, and your retainers. And you due to be at the party at 8 o'clock at night, just after 8 bells. It tends to be a party that is inside, obviously because of the weather coming in by winter. But as you arrive, it's one of these that has these flaming torches, going down the driveway. So there's and carriages arriving. And as you sort of like go up towards the house, you notice you can hear the sound of minstrels playing, and a huge crowd, a throng of people inside, and everybody's waiting to sort of like go in. And there's one of those maitre d's stood at the door, almost like a town crier, shouting out. He's sort of like bending down slightly, his ear down, and hearing some voice, then go, Lady Petunia and Lord Fiddlewack. And then they sort of like go in, and you notice that Lord Ashton and Lady Harmony Lee with Darcy and Dotty are sort of like just inside and sort of like shaking hands as servants come and remove robes and cloaks. So just out of interest, before you actually get to the party, before you actually go in, is there anything that you would like to do, prepare, or say?
Gulliver wants to, on the way up to him, he wants to say to Hengist, could you maybe help me out with how I how I address people? If somebody maybe talks to me, maybe you could butt in and say, oh yeah, so this is whoever it is, and then I'd know how to address them.
Yes, if I've met them, I'll be able to do that. Yes. If not, I'll introduce myself and then introduce yourself.
What about eating?
Eating, just slightly smaller mouthfuls than you would normally. I know which you have a fondness for cheese, so I'm sure there'll be cheese there.
Are we allowed to take? Am I allowed to put it in my pocket for later if there's some left over?
Probably not. That would probably be frowned upon.
Right.
Okay, so you make your way up to the door, and you're sort of like Hengist and your retainers are sort of like next in line. And as you're waiting, there seems to be some kind of a kerfuffle inside, and a rather flamboyantly dressed individual sort of like pushes his way out. He's sort of like going, sorry, and he sort of like comes out. Just everybody make perception rolls. Let's see what you actually notice as you come out. Hengist is on form. Everybody's on form apart from Bartleby. Bartleby, you're just sort of like taken up by all the grandeur and the huge amount of money that is being set up here that would be much better spent on the poor and the slums. But Gulliver and Hasra and Hengist, you see this guy sort of like dash out. He's very flamboyant. You think he's probably in his mid-20s. He looks well dressed, but not finely dressed. He looks very clean shaven and clean and well presented, but it seems a bit strange that he's leaving rather than entering. And you sort of like see him go by, and at that point, Hengist, the maitre d' sort of like bends his ear to you and says, "Yes, sir."
I am Hengist, the most recent addition to House Galot, and these are my retainers, Gulliver of the.
And just as you explain, he suddenly stands up and says, "Hengist and his retainers." And the people sort of like look around, and you sort of like move in, and you see for the first time Lord Ashton and Lady Harmony Lee. So you should be able to see the tokens on thing. Lord Ashton looks quite young, very well built, not fat, very muscular. He seems to be finely dressed, and similar to some of you, he seems to have a dagger at his on his waistband. Very ornate scabbard as well, and you notice that he handles himself very well. He's very clean shaven, and his wife, on the other hand, is quite snooty, quite as if she's holding her nose up. And Ashton sort of like grabs your hand with both his hands, Hengist, and goes, "Hengist, my man, thank you so much for coming along. I really do appreciate you joining our house. You will be a fine addition to it." And he sort of like looks at the rest of you and says, "Welcome, retainers." And then he says, "May I introduce my wife, Lady Harmony Lee?" And she goes, "Charmed."
Hengist will take a hand and kiss her, so I kiss it on the knuckles.
And actually, when you actually touch her with your lips, you see this shock, as if to think, "Oh my God, I thought he was just going to pretend to do that instead." And she's sort of like,
"My pleasure, my lady."
"Oh, the pleasure's all mine." And she sort of like looks out at the huge line of people and lets out a rather big sigh. And the twins, Darcy and Dottie, sort of like start to fidget a little bit. And she sort of like goes shh, like this, and they sort of like become very upright and sort of like involved. And you decide you head off. You should be able to hear the noise of the party now. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's lots of people there, and they're doing the classic party act. There seems to be certain circles happening, and there seems to be waitresses or servants moving around, and you notice that what appears to be the butler in charge, who you presume is Perry, he's got his hands behind his back and is just sort of like keeping an eye and now and again glaring at waitresses or servants as they go about their business. And like Lord Ashton and Lady Harmony Lee are continuing to greet people. What would you all like to do?
Bartleby would look to Hengist, or probably tug on his shoulder and say, "So, what do we do?"
We talk
mingle.
we talk to the other guests at the party, and if they ask any questions, then sort of like you big up your actions and sort of like exaggerate a little bit. It's a big the whole event is to vie for social standing. So exaggeration is the key.
Is it like a table with food on it?
No, the servants are sort of like bringing around almost like canapes and things like that, and people are doing the classic thing of just picking one and then just sort of like nibbling at it, where they've got a goblet, a cut glass, wine glasses, you know, and sort of like eating and drinking at the same time.
Gulliver say to Hengist, Hengist, is it free?
Yes, Gulliver. All the food and drink is free.
So Gulliver
take
wait
too many at one time.
Gulliver wait till one of the waitresses comes round, and he'll take one and sort of like quickly pop it in his mouth, but then he'll take another one.
Yeah, and it's sort of like I just need to roll a dice. Yeah, so the people come round and some food comes round, and Gulliver sort of like takes one and puts one straight in his mouth, then take another one, and you notice that so some of the servants, as they bring it round and you do it, some of them sort of like grin at you. Well, several of them who are obviously a little bit older sort of like look at you with some disdain, and one of the older women, who's quite buxom, almost like sets sort of like sighs almost, and there's plenty of wine goblets, and there's enough for wine. There doesn't seem to be any other drinks coming around apart from wine at the moment.
So Gulliver Gulliver won't have anything to drink because he doesn't drink alcohol, but he'll sort of like look around, and then he wants to go. If it doesn't look like anybody sort of like taking notice of him, he wants to maybe go and have a look at paintings on the wall and stuff like that.
Shall we get you into the house? Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
I just need to reveal another one of the areas because it doesn't seem to have revealed. Yeah, can you see that? All right, everybody got sight of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see that within the house there's various places that you can actually go. The majority of the party is happening in the main part. Nobody seems to be spilling out into the antechambers that you can see, and I'm not going to spend my time putting all the guests on, but good grief, Bartleby.
Full of Amriel's grace.
Why do you come on so big every time?
What I do?
That's just his charisma.
Does his...
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can sort of like you can move yourselves to where you want to do. If you want to sort of like keep together, then that's absolutely fine. There's various groups of people, so is the idea that you're going to go off and sort of like go to certain areas or not? What's going to be the plan?
Hasra's going to be staying very close to Hengist, and if food comes past him, he will nudge off the pretty bits and just pick up the meat off the plates and eat that. He'll have a glass of wine or a goblet of wine, but he won't be drinking it. He maybe occasionally sip it, but he just wants to be like hidden behind Hengist in a sense. He's uncomfortable. He just wants to be unsociable.
I actually put him behind a pillar.
That's fine.
I don't know if you can.
Fine. Yeah. That's perfectly how he would be. He would be just hidden away and just being as inconspicuous as he could be.
Yeah, and one thing that you notice, Hasra, is that there's not a huge amount of meat in these. It seems to be more like
Quails, eggs, and things like that.
yeah, or a very tiny bit of meat and a whole load of relish, or something like that.
There'll be a lot of pushing of relish then.
Yeah, so you're sort of like keeping yourself to yourself by the pillar. What about the other three? What are you all planning on doing?
Bartleby is going to splinter off from the group at some point in the name of getting a little bit more wine or some more food. I can't move myself, but he'd be in this central area trying to strike up conversations with people, meet some people, talk about Amriel, usual.
Okay, so you should be able to move yourself now.
Yes, about right there.
Yeah.
Trying to make conversation around sources of food and talk about the wine to try and start conversations organically.
Okay, and what about Gulliver? What's Gulliver going to be doing?
So to begin with, Gulliver will be sort of like sticking close to Hengist, but when it sort of like looks at people aren't bothered with him and they're not asking him questions or greeting him because of who he is, he'll start sort of like making trips away from Hengist, but he'll try to keep Hengist in sight just in case he has to get back to him, just in case somebody asks him something or.
Yeah. Okay.
But he wants to start sort of like staying in the main hall. He wants to start looking at things like paintings or if there's an ornament or stuff like that. He wants to sort of like be a bit more inquisitive of the stuff that's actually around and about.
Yeah. Okay.
See who's in the paintings and if there's a sculpture or something, sort of like see whether or not there's any markings on it. Just being.
Got ya. And what about Hengist?
So Hengist is.
You should all be able to move your characters now. By the way, I've given you all permission.
Hengist is going to be sort of doing a little bit of or attempting to be sociable. And he's going to be sort of like making his rounds with different sort of groups and introducing himself and trying to talk about the Great Hunt, talking about his past and sort of like their noble deeds and that sort of thing for the males.
Okay, so I'm just going to split you up a bit, so you're at sort of like different parts of the area, and I am going to ask you at some time throughout the party to do a perception roll, but your perception rolls will be they'll be at a hard, and this is because of the general noise. If you're trying to listen, if you're trying to see something, there's a mass of people, so it makes it harder for you to actually notice things, etc., etc. So when I ask you to, just remember that it won't be standard while it's at the party. It'll be hard. And Bartleby, you're sort of like stood there, sort of like keeping an eye out and sort of like mingling and sort of like bowing your head to various people. When you notice that this rather short, round man comes up to you, he's very finely dressed. He seems to be dressed in very bright colours, and he has a bald head that you can see the sweat beading on. And you don't think he's hot or anything. You think it's just from the pure exertion of actually walking around. And he sort of like comes up to you, and he's one of these people that his stomach leads the way, if that makes sense. So he's sort of like leaning back as he sort of like comes up, and he sort of like sees you there, and he looks for a while, and he talks to the lady friend that he's with, a rather skinny, almost like wraith-like woman, who has very straggly white hair. Doesn't look like it's been washed to any great standard. You think she probably would look fine, actually, out and about. Roll your insight for me.
I'll use point of luck to reverse that, if I may.
Okay, yeah. So 19. You suddenly realise that you've seen this rather frail-looking woman. You don't know whether or not you've seen her exactly, but you see the type of person, and it suddenly becomes apparent that you think she's one of the ladies from the slums. You definitely are aware of this as she moves with the rather rotund man towards you, because you notice as she walks, it's quite unnatural. She's obviously not used to this finery, etc. And the guy comes up to you and says, "Is it Bartleby?"
It is indeed, but I'm afraid I don't recall your name.
I am Vildor. Vildor, I have heard so much about you. This is my... And he sort of like looks at the woman and sort of like frowns for a while. "My companion," he says, as he's obviously forgotten her name, even if she has one. And it says, "It is such an honour to meet you, Mr. Bartleby. I've heard so much about your great work."
Well, it is a pleasure to meet you as well, Vildor. Truly, it is my companions that deserve the honor.
No, Mr. Bartleby, I have heard of your great works in the slums of this city.
Oh, well, yes, it's a passion of mine. The suffering is so needless.
Yes. You're very needless, and yet there is so much we could do about it, do you not think?
I think that exactly. That's what I've been trying to tell everybody.
Yes, we are of the same wavelength. And he sort of like looks at the woman and says, "Go and get me something to eat and drink." And she sort of like thinks for a while, then slopes off. He says, "I'm so sorry about my companion. She lacks certain form of social graces in this area. So, Mr. Bartleby, where were we?"
We were talking about the slums and how if only we had the right funding and the support of the city guard, we could make it a safe place.
"Bartleby, we are on the same wavelength. We are thinking the same thing." And he sort of like does this and brings out a really flamboyant handkerchief that actually looks about the size of a small tablecloth. And he sort of like wipes his head with it and then sticks it up his sleeve and says, do you know, I always say that to do great work, charity has to begin at home."
Yes, I agree. I didn't think I'd meet somebody who feels the same way I do about the suffering.
Yes, I think, in order to protect the slums, we need to have charity that starts at home. So I wondered whether or not you would be prepared to represent me at the next local church council to put forward this great idea.
The judge council?
Yes.
I'm afraid I don't think I'm familiar.
I think the church gets together and then you put forward your cases and then they decide what to spend their money on.
Right. The church judge council. Sorry. It's the chatter in here. It makes...
I know, it is rather gross.
I would...
bickering budgies, if you ask me.
Very true. And I would be honored to represent you at the...
I am so pleased to hear that. So, what I was thinking, because charity starts at home, there are a number of merchants in Lindo that could do with a little social boost, shall we say. And it's so pleased that you will be representing us.
Absolutely. Who are these merchants?
Well, myself for one. My name is Vildor. I own a small company, a small merchant business. It has an approximately turnover of thousands of silver coins per month, but you know, every little bit can help, and if we have the power of the church supporting us, then it is so nice for you to accept that charity starts at home. This is the important place. Let me introduce you. And he sort of like looks across and he notices this rather thin looking man, and he says, Pico! Like this, and this guy sort of like comes across, and he has a Fu Manchu mustache, and he sort of like goes, yes. Bartleby has agreed to represent our merchants in the upcoming church hustings. Oh, how absolutely fantastic of you, Master Bartleby. I am so pleased that we are on the same wavelength. Charity needs to start at home. And what a better place to start than in the merchant district of Lindo.
In the merchant district?
Yes, Mr. Bartleby, charity begins at home. You agreed to it some time ago. You need to actually pour the money to the merchant district so we can gain those finances and then in the future project it into the less fortunate area of Lindo, the slums.
Well, it's an interesting idea. I'm not sure I follow the logic. Shouldn't we be investing the finances into the slums?
But Mr. Bartleby, you agreed earlier that charity begins at home.
I suppose I did.
Exactly. Supporting our merchant businesses will allow us to spend some of our well-earned profit in the less fortunate areas of Lindo.
Yeah, I follow now. Yeah, I see what you're saying. We will certainly have to discuss numbers so that I can properly
I will give your name to your church to be our representative.
Excellent. I'm sure they'll give me the information needed to
I'm
properly
sure
advocate.
we will. And he sort of like leans a little bit closer, and there's this whiff of stale sweat. He says, so nice that you're on our side, good man. I would hate to think that there's a champion of the slums in this area of Lindo. And he sort of like looks along and sees the wraith-like woman coming back with some kind of dish. And he sort of says, not that, you stupid woman! And sort of like leading his belly off first, he goes off, leaving you thinking, what has just happened there?
Slightly puzzled, Bartleby is.
It would appear that Bartleby has agreed to support the merchants at the church hustings that are coming up. So fighting the cause for the merchants rather than his beloved slums. The merchants appear to think that charity starts at home, i.e. you should do it in the merchant guild and then it'll move on.
I'm in a bit of a pickle.
Excellent. Yeah, let's go. Oh, yeah, let's go. Is Hasra back? Yeah, Hasra, you're sort of like there and you're sort of like keeping yourself to yourself. And can you make a perception roll for me, please?
Certainly.
So remember, this would be hard because of the general background noise. Oh, yes.
58 out of 60.
So as you're stood there, leaning against the pillar, you can hear a group of ladies. They seem to be talking sort of like here. Does that make sense? Almost
just
like
inside the pillar.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's they probably don't even realise that you're there. And there seems to be a bit of a conversation going. And there's definitely women. There seems to be no male voices at all. and there just seems to be women talking, and you figure there's about 4 or 5 of them just by listening to the voices, and you get the distinct impression that they're actually talking about your hostess, Harmony Lee, in a rather detrimental manner. And you hear, these are just sort of like the little snippets of the conversation that you get. And one woman sees to say, "Oh yes, I think Ashton is far too good for her. How she ever managed to land such a handsome guy, I have no idea." And somebody else sort of like says, "Well, I think she probably used magic, if you say me. I mean, who could get a man with a nose like hers?" And there's sort of like that sort of like little sniggery laughter that ladies are so good at. And how could he be so blind to her antics? And somebody says, "Oh, Rose, do not use such words in public like this. Keep your voice down. We do not know who is listening." And a rather elderly woman's voice comes in and says, "I think only bad things will come from this. I can't see it. Once Lord Ashton finds out, I think she might be out on her arse by herself." "Oh, yes, I do think so. Although you do realise that it is her that has the money and not him." And somebody else sort of goes, "Really? Oh, I am shocked, Matilda. I always thought he had the money." "Oh, no, my dear. He has very little. And the majority of the money lives with Harmony Lee, would you put it?" "Oh, well, God knows how she managed to have so much money. I mean, I can understand that she dresses right, but I can't imagine her persuading anybody. Perhaps she has some kind of hold over Lord Ashton." "Hold? Well, that'd have to be magical. I have no idea how he even managed to bear children from her. Let's just say all the candles must have been out at that point." And there's sort of like a snigger round, and a servant girl comes up and sort of like says, "Would you like a small drink?" "Oh, yes, thank you, wretch." And so they sort of like pick things up, and you hear the girl move. And she obviously can't afford very good servants. I mean, did you smell that girl? Has this woman not heard of rose water? I mean, it's unbelievable. Well, I actually think these vol au vantes are quite dry, to be honest with you. My cook does a...
At which point you'll hear Hasra cough rather loudly in that kind of a kind of way to sort of like make his presence known.
And so let me just roll my perception. Oh, 8! Yes, they definitely hear you, and Solid goes, "Oh, I think there seems to be some kind of foreign gentleman on the opposite side of the pillar. Let's move to the other side of the room where the smell is less intense." And they sort of like move away towards Hengist, and you're sort of like moving around Hengist, and all of a sudden you feel this almighty whack on your back, boof, like this, and you sort of like look round, and there's what appears to be a rather large man. You think his intelligence is probably in his biceps. He has a small head, and he sort of like comes up to you and says, "Hengist, my old man, how are you doing?"
I'm perfectly fine, thank you. How are you? You have me at a slight disadvantage. I'm not sure we've met.
And he sort of like puts his arm out around your shoulders, and sort of like pulls you towards him in a sort of like a half bear hug, and says, "Reginald's the name."
Good to meet you, Reginald.
"Yes, I've heard great things from the minstrels."
Yes, well, one has to put their name out every so often when a great deed is done.
Great things about you. Yes, are you looking forward to the actual boar hunt?
And very much so. Yes, it's going to be great fun.
Yeah, so glad that we don't need to do all the work.
Well, I don't mind getting my hands dirty if it's needed, but yes, I know what you mean.
Oh my lord. It certainly won't be needed. We have servants to, herd them towards us and then take the fight out of them. We just walk up at the last minute and stick our spear in them. But all for the glory, I say.
Yes, all for the glory.
I'm hoping to kill the granddaddy of the boars this year.
I've set my sights on that one as well.
Yes, good old Tusker.
Start well.
Yes.
First hunt, first kill type thing.
He has eluded us on the several hunts, but I'm sure Tusker is out there, and with my name on it, I hasten to say, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yes, well, you might find that I'm standing next to you competing to get the final thrust in, but yes.
Yes, you heard about last year, didn't you? Good man.
No, why? What happened last year?
You didn't hear about my great victory.
No, I might as well have been out of Lindo at that time on another one.
Right. Well,
and adventures.
Although it wasn't Tusker, I'm sure it was probably his son. A mighty beast came charging towards me. There was nobody in the way of me at all. This huge boar, tusks full of blood from goring the servants in his pass. And there I was, stood in front of him, charging towards me, my sword lost and only a small twig in my hand.
Well, I hope you suitably dealt with that.
Oh, although it doesn't look like it from my build, young man. I managed to evade those ravaging tusks, I tell you.
Well, that takes some skill. Rather like the time that I fought off a giant on the way through to one of the towns. With,
yes, I took a mortal wound. As it came for, I managed to step out from one side, and it got me in my side. I had a fatal wound, totally mortal. I was lucky to be alive.
You'll have to give me the name of your doctor that brought you back to excellent health.
Doctor? Push! I don't need a doctor. I just went home, pulled out some of my wife's sewing needles and thread, and just stitched myself up. Not a problem at all.
Oh, well, I'm glad to see there's no lasting ill effects from that meeting with the boar.
I tell you, there was enough blood pouring out of my body that we could have drank it for weeks in a full house and not actually run dry. Loads of it. It was like a small pond there on the floor.
Oh, well, speaking of ponds, there was this, I don't know if you heard, I don't know if this minstrel has managed to sing the tale.
And I killed it. I killed it with just a twig.
Good for you.
I know. Well, you could probably not guess from my side, but as I nipped to one side and took the fatal wound into my side, I managed to twist and stick the stick into its side through carefully precision. It's all about precision, young man. I hope you realise that as you come. You know, I slid it through a ribcage, pierced its heart in one fair swoop. There was a few death fits for a period of time where it just tossed me about left, right and centre. You know, cracked a few bones, lost a couple of arms, but apart from that I was absolutely fine.
Well, that's very good. We like to hear. It's glad that you survived, and I look forward to seeing you in action.
Well, I just hope, Mr. Hengist, you are good enough to stand next to me in the final battle. You know, it'll be good. Maybe I could teach you a fair things.
Oh, well, we'll see. I mean, I can hold my own. well, we'll see. I mean, there was the time that I fought off a whole horde of Batrachians in the swamp.
And of course I can make sure that if it comes to you instead of me, you know, maybe just let me take the kill. I would hate to sort of like, you know, impede on your great royalty and your fame and fortune, but, you know, some of us are just naturally more, shall we say, better than others.
Well, we'll see.
Oh, Clarence, come over. Meet Mr. Hengist here. I was just telling him when I took that fatal, mortal wound to my side. You remember it, don't you? Oh, yes, I remember it quite fantastically. I tell you, it's a good job that healing priest... Healing priest rubbish! I stitched myself up with a bit of thread, pulled from my doublet. That's all I needed. Well, yes. Hengist, have you done anything famous?
Well, you've probably heard a few stories about...
Famous? He was not as famous as myself. Did I tell you the time that I actually managed to single-handedly defeat a whole gang of baboons with only a small grape as a weapon?
Oh, well, that's very good. It's almost like the time that I faced off against the
Just
famous
one
Mythras
little flick.
by myself.
One little flick with this grape. I managed to circle it around, hitting several baboons on the head, knocked them out absolutely cold. I tell you, there's nothing more powerful than a flicked grape.
Ah, well, that's interesting. I mean, this Zuktuk was about the size of a barn. And
A barn? That's very small in this day and age. I took on a charging horde of centaurs. I took an arrow to the knee. It took my knee out completely, shattered it, absolutely shattered it. But I was still able to stand up and move forward. You know, I just stuck a bit of twig down it to form some kind of splint, and I moved on.
Good for you. I mean, it's nothing like the time that I saved Count Bastian's life in single combat against a giant...
Oh, well, he's a total utter wuss, isn't he? Well, I have actually saved him countless times. There was one time that he actually fell from the highest cliff, and it wasn't for me hurling myself after him, grabbing him and embracing him and turning him, so I took the smashing blow to my back, clean severed my spine. I could have walked for weeks, I tell ya.
What about you, Clarence? Are there any famous stories about you floating around?
Clarence is quite wide-eyed, and he's looking at both of you and says, "Oh no, I'm quite, shall I say, quite inadequate, according to these Reginald's great stories."
I'm sure you have a story that you can be proud of.
No, he can't. He's a wuss, aren't you, Clarence? Oh, yes, I am a bit of a wuss. I do about. Don't worry about it. And he sort of like whacks Clarence on his back, and Clarence sort of like goes forward and almost like tips his drink over. I'm sorry, he says. I'm not really in favour of all this. On this this butchery. Butchery? Oh, you wuss, Clarence. I tell you, I could probably take out a whole horde of boars just with a penknife. Well, even less maybe. Just with one finger. I could probably do that. Garish is just put in, "You, sir, are a liar and a cad." A cad, I say. Good day, sir. I said good day. Yeah, and you're sort of like back. You're enjoying the I can pee higher than you up the wall conversation as Reginald goes on and on and on about his exploits, with Clarence quite quiet in the corner. And Gulliver, you sort of like are mingling around, and you are over looking at
he doesn't want to mingle. He wants to try to avoid.
Yeah, so you're sort of like over looking at one of the images on the wall down here. Can you see their little poofs to sit off? and you're sort of like kneeling on them, looking at a painting. Can you roll your perception, please? Oh, nice. A nice critical roll there. So as you're there watching it, you hear a clatter behind you. The dropping of plates, maybe goblets. What would you like to do?
He'll look around to see what's happened.
You notice there's a rather youngish servant girl. You notice that she's very red in the face now. She's blushing immensely, and she's hurriedly trying to pick up the voulevants onto the plate.
Gulliver will turn round and he'll help her. He'll start picking up the ones because they're probably rolled as they've hit the ground. So he'll start sort of like picking the ones up that have rolled towards him.
Yeah, and you sort of like start picking them up, and she sort of like sees you and sort of like says, "Oh, thank you." And as you're there picking up, you notice that the people around have moved. You know, almost like when somebody is sick, there becomes a gap in the area, and everybody's doing that. And she's sort of like picking them up, and even picking up the one that somebody stood on, and and bringing it together. And as you're down on the floor, you suddenly notice a pair of shoes stood there, Gulliver. And as you sort of like have a quick look up, you notice that it's the master butler, Perry.
Gulliver will just smile, and then he'll say, "They were on the floor and people were standing on them."
And he sort of like looks at you, and as you sort of like smile, he sort of like nods his head at you because you're obviously a guest, and he says, "I do apologise for her incompetence. She is new and has obviously not learned the advanced skills of carrying a tray." "Oh, sorry, Mr. Mr. Perry, sorry, I am so sorry." And she sort of like gets the last one, and you sort of like put yours on the tray, and she stands up with it, and he sort of like looks at her and says, "No, you stupid girl, those cannot be served anymore." "Oh yes, sorry, Mr. Perry, I'm so sorry about that." "Yes."
Gulliver will say, I don't think there's any harm done, and if he's holding one, he'll sort of like dust it off with his fingers just in case there's anything on, and he'll pop it into his mouth and say, "It tastes fine to me."
And then Perry sort of like looks almost like stunned for a moment, and then suddenly remembers who he is and who you are, and says, "Yes, kind sir, I'm sure. Maybe let me get this servant girl to bring another round for you. I am sure that those were not cook's best." And he sort of like clicks a finger, and the girl says, "Oh, sorry, Mr. Perry. Sorry, I will go straight away and try to get some more." And she sort of like heads off, and there's a slight step up onto sort of like this dais up here, and as she goes, she just sort of like trips on there and falls forward again, and the tray with the voulevants just go all over the place, and Perry just sort of like rolls his eyes back and looks to the season and says, "Oh, Amriel, give me strength." And he sort of like starts over towards the girl. What's Gulliver doing?
Gulliver will go over again and start helping.
And Perry sort of like looks at you helping the girl, and he sort of like seems to be more resigned for something, and he sort of like says, "Well, if you need to help her, then please do. But I would advise you not to eat anything that, since it's been on the floor twice now, good sir. Of course, good sir, it is purely up to you whether or not you decide to eat or not. Please, I wouldn't want to impose my opinion on you.
Oh, it's all right. I'll just. Well, I don't mind helping. I'll just help pick them up and then.
As you wish, kind sir. And Perry sort of like glares at the girl, the servant girl, who goes bright purple, and she sort of like turns to you and says, "Thank you."
That's okay. And I know it's. I know it can be difficult when you're new at something.
Oh, for me, life is just difficult. It doesn't matter if I'm new or not.
Why is it difficult?
Well, I have no skills. Cook says I have no skills. I'm in something about not having skills. I forget, she uses such flowery language at times.
Well, maybe you do have skills, but maybe you just haven't found what you're skilled at yet.
Oh, my name's Lizzie.
I'm Gulliver.
Yeah, my name's Lizzie. Some people call me Lizzie Dripping. Or is it Lizzie Tripping?
And Gulliver, sometimes people call me...
Stupid? People call me stupid as well.
No, they don't call me. No, they don't call me stupid.
No, of course not, sir. I'm so sorry. I wasn't saying you were stupid.
Oh, I'm not a sir. I'm just here with Hengist. He's not a sir here either, but he's trying to be.
So sorry, I don't know who Hengist is. I need to get back to the kitchen, otherwise, Mr. Perry might be cross with me.
Okay, well, we'll just walk carefully and watch the steps.
Thank you, sir. And she does like a little false curtsy, and she manages to get through one of the doors down to into out of the main area hallway, and so like you watch her wind her way through the crowd. And you notice, Gulliver, that every now and again she sort of like is looking back over her shoulder and sort of like smiling at you as you progress. And with all that happening,
do birds
suddenly appear. And while all this is happening and you're sort of like all interacting, so imagine that all this happens simultaneously and you're all sort of in your crowd. Bartleby, could you roll, and Bartleby and Hengist, you can both roll your perception rolls for me.
No, sir. Actually, can I spend a point of luck to reroll?
Yes, by all means.
It's my second point. Still don't make it a hard.
No, and you sort of like bit busy talking to everybody, and you suddenly notice that Hengist, off to one side of you, there's the butler is stood there. Oh, nice one, Garish. That's a cute little emote in the chat. You notice that Perry's stood there, and he's just sort of like standing very erect, chin and nose slightly elevate with his hand behind his back. And then I just sort of like rolled to one side and got underneath the great beast and rammed my finger, my little pinky, up into the boar's middle and just pierced his spleen in one fair swoop.
That's mightily impressive. Do excuse me for a second, good sir. I think someone's wanting my attention.
So thank you so much. And please do not be put off by my combat prowess. My prowess as a combat. Please, just do your best. That's all you can actually do when you're being compared. Don't compare yourself to me. I am so good at this boar hunting lark. And you sort of like move yourself away, and Clarence says to Reginald, "Oh, do tell me more, Reginald. I am so impressed." And Perry comes over to you, Hengist, and you sort of like break away from the conversation and turn to him, and he says, "Sorry, my lord. The lady has asked for your for you to attend her, you and your retainers." And Hengist, you just sort of like quickly look back, and you notice that the stream of people, this is what your perception roll was before, the stream of people have stopped, and you notice that Lord Ashton is still there meeting people, but there seems to be no sign of Harmony Lee. And Perry says, "If you could round up your retainers and meet me at the entrance, I could take you to the good lady."
Yes, of course. I'll be there in a few moments. And then Hengist will go off and try and sort of like excusing himself in case he bumps into people, just like move his way through.
Yeah, so as you move past Bartleby seems to be in frantic conversation with a rather round man with a sweaty head, and it seems you're quite shocked, Hengist, because as you go by, you just get the end of the conversation, and the guy says, "Well, thank you so much, Mr. Bartleby, for joining us in the merchant cause. I'm so pleased that you are on our side with this."
So at that point, Hengist will sort of like appear next to Bartleby and go, as after the chap's left, and say, "I didn't know you were so interested in merchants, Bartleby."
I am interested in ending the suffering of all people, Lindo.
Ah, that's very good. We need to find Hasra and Gulliver and meet them at the main entrance. The Lady Harmony Lee has asked to see us all.
Yeah, that might be wise if I step away with you.
Yes, but before you agree to something else.
So I've just moved the map. I was on the wrong. I've just moved the whole map, which is a bit of a pain. Let's stick it to the map layer, then I can't do it. There you
I'm
go.
in a pillar.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You are the pillar.
And you sort of like move further down, and as you move towards the pillar, you see a group of females moving around. Bartleby and Hengist, just make your perception checks to see if you can hear what they're talking about. No, you're oblivious, and let anybody wants to look and re-roll it. They seem to be huddled together talking about something, and they keep sort of like looking back in Hasra's direction and giggling. And as you get there, you notice that you can see Gulliver off to one side, and he seems to be looking at the distance, and there seems to be this servant girl turning over, looking at Gulliver, and just as she goes into the room, she sort of like goes like this at Gulliver.
Hengist will say to Hasra and say, "It's a good thing that Gulliver's making friends."
Do you know he's a young man? He needs to branch out and meet new people, and I think a little bit of spice in his life may
Spice up your life.
It may enlighten him a little bit.
That was the Spice Girls, if anybody did. And colours of the world, spice up your life. Yeah. And you sort of like get together, and you just. Do you wish to all share the information with each other?
Yeah. Hasra will lean to Hengist and say, "The ladies around here don't seem to like Mistress Harmony Lee. We seem to think that she's a bit of a philanderer, but she seems to have the money in the partnership." So they were saying things like, "I don't know what he sees in her, with what she does, and this, that, and the other." But then someone else said, "But she has all the money, and that is why." So just to make you aware of this, it may color your perspective.
What does Florando mean?
You can roll. What's your native language skill?
64.
Yeah, you probably have heard that's above average. So you probably use, quite a lot of the civilized words in Lindo. Okay, it's just 5 past 35 minutes past. So we'll leave it there for the break, and then we'll pick it up after the session when Perry will come back to you and escort you to Harmony Lee. I won't make that happen until you've had any further chats or anything that you wish to do, cast spells, etc., before you move out. So if you're watching the stream, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to take a quick 10-minute break. So we'll be back in 10 minutes from now. So that'll be 1:45. So go off, grab yourself a coffee, grab yourself something to eat, and be back in 10. We'll see you all real soon. Yeah, we are back. We are back at the party. This big since watching your streams, I'm addicted to do it again. Nice. We're talking about ESO. There was a new DLC for ESO, so everybody's played it. But because I was at work and playing Black Desert Online, I haven't done any of the content. So tomorrow's going to be interesting. So you've sort of like got together in the party, and you're sort of like catching up, and you can see that. Perry is waiting sort of like here, if you can see where I'm pinging. Yeah, and he just seems to be there. He seems to be watching you, Hengist, not in a detrimental way or anything. He's just sort of like, almost like waiting for the signal to sort of like lead the way or whatever.
But before we go to...
Longshanks, you were muted, so what you were saying nobody heard.
Oh, my bad, I was interrupting your mutedness.
No, you weren't interrupting anything.
Bartleby leans in as we've all kind of gotten together, and after Hasra's mentioned overhearing gossip, I feel I may have gotten myself into a minor predicament.
How minor?
I think you overheard. I think that the merchants think I'm going to be supporting them. I think that people here talk in ways that are slippery, and we need to keep our wits about us as we go in to talk to the lady of this mansion.
Bartleby, my friend, why are you supporting the merchants? I thought you were for the poor folk.
They said that the slums needs help, and I said I agree with that. And
that is true. Yes.
They were like wrestlers throwing me into a ring.
Wrestlers! Verbal wrestling. I quite like the idea of that.
I wasn't prepared for it. They tricked me.
There's a couple of things you can do, Buzz. You can either continue and represent the merchants, and hopefully some good will come out of it, or you could apologise profusely and say you misunderstood.
Or why not do what we did with the tribe in many years gone by, since I last have been with them, when you would play one side against another, so you'd agree with the merchants, but secretly, with your heart, you were really trying to help.
Becoming a double agent.
You're right, Hasra. There might be a way I can make this do good.
We used to do it with our shaman all the time. You know, we used to say, "Yes, shaman, whatever you want," and then we'd say, "No, not today."
Well, I don't know how much I agree with that last part, but I feel your spirit, Hasra.
Yes, yes, thank you.
But yes, and thank you, Hasra, for gossip about the lady. We'll have to keep an eye out, but we do need to.
Be careful of the Volavons, they might have been on the floor.
What are Volavons?
Yeah. What you're eating at the moment.
Those little things that's what they're called. I heard that person over there by the door who keeps looking at Hengist.
Yes.
That.
And speaking of that, the lady Harmony Lee has invited myself and you as well to meet her. So
I noticed that Hengist avoided the word retainers at that point.
Yes, you did.
Okay, so you head over to the entrance, and sort of like Perry nods as you arrive, and then he takes you out the front and round to a corner part of the house. Don't worry, I'm going to reveal it for you so you can see it. Okay, so this is where he takes you.
As we're going round, Gulliver's going to sort of like almost like whisper to Hengist, "Is this normal, Hengist?" Oh, we're not being thrown out, are we?
No, but we're not being thrown out. They would have taken us out the back if we'd been thrown out. They would have asked us to leave. The lady has asked to see us. I mean, it's somewhat unusual to see her outside, but it's not unusual that the host would ask to speak to a specific guest.
You think she never goes outside?
No, I'm just saying it's unusual, Hasra, at a party to do it outside, but we'll soon find out.
So Perry takes you round to sort of like this, almost like secret garden area, and Harmony Lee seems to be without Darcy and Dottie, the twin girls, and she seems to be have this robe on. Hasra, just make I think you have an animal law skill.
I have a nature law skill.
Yeah, roll that. That'll do.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Yeah, you recognise this straight away. You think it's probably Snow Bear. That she's sort of like been out and skinned her. Also, I don't think she.
Shops.
Yeah, I don't think she did it, but she's sort of like wrapped in it, and she has a huge hood over her head.
Hasra will whisper to Hengist, "That's a lovely snow bear thing she's wearing there. It's beautiful."
I see. Must have cost a pretty penny.
And as you go around the corner, you notice that she's pacing backwards and forwards, as if she's waiting for you to arrive. And as you come around the corner, Perry says, "My lady, Hengist and his retainers are here." And he sort of like bows and seems to go away. So he's sort of like left by this boat and then gone back to the house, you assume. And Lady Harmony Lee comes round and says, she sort of like goes straight up to Hengist and says, "Hengist, it is an honour to meet you."
Yes, of course. And he takes her hand, and he pretends to kiss this time, having learned that.
Yeah, and she sort of like, she thinks for a moment you're going to leave her hanging, but then you sort of like make the move and pretend, and she sort of like smiles, not a pleasant smile, more yes, you know your place sort of smile, and she sort of like looks at everybody, but she seems to be addressing Hengist at the present moment in time, and she says, I am so pleased that you came."
Yes, you asked to see us, and I'm more than happy to. It's a pleasure.
My husband, Ashton, is extremely grateful that you will be accompanying him on the Great Boar Hunt. You are a great fighter and warrior. I have heard many a tales of your accomplishments and your daring deeds.
Well, thank you, and it's a great honour to be asked by your husband, Lord Ashton.
But I have a request of you, Hengist. A request that I feel I can only talk to you and your retainers about. Something has been troubling me night after night leading up to this Great Boar Hunt.
Do tell, my lady. What has been worrying you?
It is probably best for you to see. And she sort of like undoes the top part of her robe. Hengist, you probably go like that over Gulliver's eyes as he sort of...
Gulliver's just sort of like stood there, sort of like standing on one foot a bit and just lifting his other one off the wet grass so that it doesn't get all
boots.
And then so he's got a better chance of taking them back. So he's just sort of like standing on one for a bit and then putting it down,
swap it to the other one
on the other.
And the Harmony Lee sort of like reaches in, pulls out something and hands it to you, Hengist. It appears to be a folded piece of parchment.
My thanks, my lady. Hengist will look at it and see if it's got squiggles on it. Does it have squiggles on it?
Yes, it does. Do you have a literacy skill of
Hengist
any?
doesn't have a literacy skill, which is why I was careful to say squiggles.
Okay,
he
then.
Recognises writing, and then he will turn to Bartleby and Gulliver and say, "Would you be able to read this, Bartleby?"
Yeah, Bartleby and Gulliver, you don't need to make a roll because there's only 3 characters and an exclamation mark on this one, and it just says
PTO.
it just says die exclamation mark. It looks like both of you, from what you look, it looks almost like somebody's dipped their finger into blood and then drawn it on the actual parchment. And as you've got hold of this, Hengist, she says, that is not the only one, and she reaches into the other side of her robes and brings out another parchment and hands it to you. And there's actually slightly more letters on this, but Bartleby and Gulliver, you can see them. They're very simple words, and it says dead meat on it.
Gulliver will hand them back to Hengist, and he'll say, it says die and dead meat.
And that is not the only thing, Hengist.
I see. This is fair. This is more serious than I thought it would be. Has your husband or yourself got any enemies?
We are nobility. Of course we have enemies.
Maybe 1 or 2 that would spring to mind more than others.
I do not know. It is most worrying. Most worrying. But there is more, Hengist.
Hengist will half turn to Gulliver and say, yes, Gulliver. Sorry, my lady. My retainers are very skilled in their certain areas. Their words I take with great heart and respect.
It is so.
They speak freely.
I totally agree, Master Hengist. It is so hard to get valuable hired help nowadays.
Yes, Gulliver.
Whereabouts were these letters found?
My lady, where do you know where have the letters been found? Were they sent to the house or?
Oh, they have been found. I hate to say this, but in my own personal residence, they have been found on my bed, on my table, only in my room, and there has been something else left in my room. A dead cat.
I see.
Slit open from its chin to its tail, and its insides spread and scattered.
I see. Obviously, as some sort of warning. Who would have access to your rooms?
Myself, my husband, my daughters, members of staff.
I see. Have any of the members of staff been behaving oddly towards you recently?
I am somewhat
concerned. A cat.
I am somewhat worried. I have seen strange people lurking in the surrounding areas, and even when I go out and run about, I have this strange feeling that even though I am alone in the wagon, in the carriage, I feel the presence of somebody else lurking. And you notice that she's sort of like rubbing her hands together and wringing them as if she's incredibly nervous. I do worry. It would appear that somebody is out to cause me harm.
I see. These people that you keep seeing, would you be able to describe them? Give any sort of description?
Men? They are but fleeting shadows caught in my peripheral vision. I seem to see them moving quickly to my head and they are gone.
I see.
Like death stalking me. Don't say I see, please. Otherwise I'm going to have to get a tally up. I am concerned.
Right, yes, well, it sounds like that you are rightly concerned. There seems to be some sort of, by the sounds of it, some sort of plot. Is it? I'm assuming you're asking us to look into it.
Well, I would appreciate your protection. Well, not necessarily yours, Hengist, for I know that your first duty is to my lord. But maybe you could spare your retainers to keep me safe, and for my safety, and also those of my daughters.
I'm sure we can do that, and I will help out as much as I can as well.
Hengist,
Yes, Gulliver.
has there been threats to the little girls as well?
Has your daughters or your husband have any threats, or is this just yourself?
My daughters, none. Only myself, although if my lord was having such threats, I doubt very much that he would either take them seriously or even tell somebody else. He is a fine warrior, noble Hengist. He knows how to handle a sword.
Have you not told your my lord Ashton about this matter?
And she sort of like hangs her head almost in shame, and sort of like when her head's down she says, "No, Master Hengist, I do not wish to trouble him. So close to the Great Boar Hunt, he needs to be alert and ready for killing the boar. Do you not understand? If we manage to gain Tusker and Gillen, our house will have a lot of reputation, and we will be held in high esteem."
I see. Yes.
Hengist,
Yes, Gulliver.
who would benefit from her death?
Is there any other family or anybody else who would benefit? I hate to say it, but from your death, my lady.
I am by myself. It is sad to be all alone in the world. I have no parents alive. I have but my lord and my daughters. I suppose anybody would benefit if they killed me.
Hasra will lean over to Hengist and say in his ear, "Remember, she's the one with the money in the family."
Can I therefore, will you therefore give me your protection?
Of course, I will more than happily ask my retainers to help. They are very, very skilled in their certain areas. I have a priest of Amriel, who is a mighty healer and sage, and sage has sage advice. And then there's Gulliver, who, although small in stature, is rather surprisingly useful in certain situations.
Like cooking.
He can crawl down narrow pipes.
Bending small rips.
And then Hasra
We will you?
and
I'm sure you're putting her at ease.
and he has certain powerful friends in the
and there's Hasra
Order of
who's
the
got a
Kraken.
spear.
And then, of course, Hasra here is a warrior as well.
I am reassured by your talk and your expertise of your retainers. I would like to say I feel safe, and that there's a noise somewhere, and she's sort of like jumped. But I am concerned. I do not want to end my life here. And yet it is so important for my lord to win this Great Boar Hunt. I hate to think what he would do if he heard about the attempts on my life. He would probably withdraw from the boar hunt altogether.
Yes, that is a possibility, and as you've said, would be of great benefit to the house if he does manage to get Tusker.
Maybe that's what they were hoping for, by the threats that he would withdraw.
That is one aim that they could be after. Yes, it does make some sense.
Maybe the threats will stop once they find out that he's going to go ahead.
I will be missed from the party. I need to return. Is there any further information that you need from me? You can keep the notes.
Thank you. Not at the moment. My retainers, will they have your leave to stay in the house to have protection, to ensure your protection, or the grounds at least?
My lord will seem worried if I constantly ask you to stay. Maybe return tomorrow. Tomorrow is a rest day before the Great Hunt. Maybe we can take luncheon at the house.
Yes, that would be nice, and it would be good to talk to Lord Ashton as well about the hunt if I'm going to be assisting him.
And then you can maybe come, and she sort of like looks at your outfits and your distinct lack of weapons, more prepared.
Yes, of course.
I have asked for my daughters to be moved into my own room, so we will sleep together in one room. Fear not, Hengist. Master Hengist, I will lock the door securely.
That's good. And only let people in that you trust.
I do not know who to trust anymore, save my lord and master, Lord Ashton, and yourself, Master Hengist, and your retainers.
Okay.
Is there any more information before I go back to the party?
Hengist.
Yes,
Do you want me to give her a prayer of safety?
If my lady would wish it, my retainer Bartleby here is more than happy to make a prayer for Amriel on your behalf.
And she looks a bit shocked at that, and she sort of like says, "Is this witchcraft?"
It's not witchcraft. This is merely a prayer to his goddess, Amriel.
Yes, please pray for my safety and those of my daughters and those of Lord Ashton.
Bartleby will move forward and begin to cast his prayer of protection. This one onto her.
You sort of like, because you're going to have to. You actually have to.
Yeah, Bartleby will approach, I guess. And if she backs off, then he won't actually cast the spell, I suppose.
Yeah, so as you sort of like come through, the Hengist sort of like moves to one side, and you sort of like go forward, stumbling through your prayer, and reach out your hand, and she sort of like takes a step back and says, "What is this?"
It is. Bartleby will look at his companions a little confused, and then back to her. It's a prayer of safety from the Church of Amriel, to allow the light moon goddess to shine her eyes upon you and keep you safe.
You want to touch me?
Well, want is
touch me.
It's more of it requires a mortal conduit of her energy.
And she looks to you, Hengist, for reassurance.
I'm sure the same sort of greeting that you gave me would be more than enough.
And she sort of like looks around, and then she extends her hand like this, Bartleby, towards you. Just roll your is that folk magic? Yeah.
Correct.
Just roll. It'll come off. It's just whether or not you use up points or not. Ooh, that's no magic points taken off as you cast it, quite effectively. And she sort of like she almost like shudders a little bit as the protection spell goes onto her. Let me just find my shields. Oh, that's a nice protection. Good.
Bartleby probably was holding her hand kind of matter-of-factly rather than like how Hengist would have more
Yeah.
idea of courtesy. And then after it's done, he just kind of unceremoniously just releases her hand and then shuffles back.
Yeah, and you sort of like release it, and she sort of like holds it there for a little bit longer as she sort of like blinks, and she sort of like takes it away and looks at it and strokes her hand and says, "You are a mighty powerful priest, good sir. I feel somewhat reassured by your goddess's blessing on me."
Amriel will keep you safe. And Bartleby will bow and move backward.
But Amriel will keep you safe for 1d3 points of damage. After that...
She doesn't need to know that.
After that, hard luck. And she sort of like pulls her cloak back around her and puts up the hood once again and says, "By your leave, Master Hengist."
Of course, my lady. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
And she nods to you, Hengist, but definitely not to anybody else. And she heads back into the room, leaving you out here. Yeah, what would you like to do?
I'm sorry.
What's the significance of the cat, Bartleby?
The cat.
You know about cultures and...
I don't know much about any her uses in the church. We don't use animal sacrifices in the Church of Amriel. I mean, I guess unless you consider candles indirectly kind of a sacrifice, but I would think you would know more about the significance of this. Unless you're wondering if a monster such as goblins use these as threats. They sometimes kill local cats, mostly for eating. But
if anybody wants to roll a custom check, it will be formidable to find out the correct information there, if there is any information. Hasra doesn't know anything. Hmm?
I think my customs are more to do with before Otis rather than...
Yeah, no,
As well.
none of you, Bartleby or Hasra, you haven't heard. You just think it's, from your point of view, it just sounds like somebody being rather vindictive and nasty. You know, I mean, not only is there a dead cat, but it's going to be all over the sheets and the blood and everything.
do you have an idea, Gulliver, of how somebody might have accomplished this? And you're good at getting into places. They got these letters into her without anybody noticing.
Well, they could have paid one of the servants just to put it on, or well, I suppose they could have climbed up the edge of the house and broken in and put it on. I can't imagine that. Well, I would have thought they would have had to come up the side of the house, because I would have thought somebody would notice somebody carrying a cat through the house, wouldn't they? Unless the cat belonged in the house.
Didn't sound like she knew the cat.
No, it didn't. It didn't. She wasn't referring to it as if it was a pet or anything like that. It just seems that it was a cat.
Perhaps it was...
The strange thing is that if they wanted her dead, they could probably have found ample opportunity to kill her.
Yes, especially if they managed to get into her private rooms on a number of occasions.
It sounds more like that, like they're trying to warn her off from something.
Either that, or as you said earlier, Gulliver, it might be that they're trying to force Lord Ashton into retiring from the hunt.
Well, my first thoughts were that, well, it was Lord Ashton.
It definitely seems from what they were talking about, Harmony Lee really did think that the reason she hasn't told the Lord is that the Lord would probably withdraw from the Great Boar Hunt if he found out, and she obviously sees that as a negative, especially not only for Lord Ashton but for the House of Galot as well.
I think on the boar hunt you should keep special careful look on Lord Ashton.
Yes, of course, I'd be keeping an eye on him. There's one or two. I wouldn't have thought it would be from within the house. Perhaps it's worth circulating at the party and finding if House Galot has any particular rivals in the Great Hunt.
But the other thing that you need to take into account, Hengist, is that we're automatically assuming that the letters and the cat were actually meant for her.
Who else would they be meant for? They were in her rooms.
But surely it's her husband's room as well.
Well, it could be. I have heard of arrangements where lords and ladies sleep separately.
It should have asked that.
It didn't seem from the conversation. At the end of the conversation, she mentioned that she had brought Dottie and Darcy into her room. Throughout the conversation, she referred to her room rather than our room. So, Hengist, you're probably correct. It's probably that they do not share the same bed. Maybe adjoining rooms. I mean, Hengist, you know that things like this do happen in high society. High society, high. Oh no, that's high fidelity, isn't it? Yeah, sorry.
Yes, high society is a non-singing version. Yes. With Jimmy Stewart.
I don't know. It just seems from the way that she was talking. It's my initial thoughts were that the person that had the most to gain from her death would have been Lord Ashton himself, and what better excuse of not being doing it was being away on a boar hunt.
There were the rumours that Hasra you mentioned.
That is correct. I mean, I was stood around the corner of the pillar, and the ladies were chitty-chatty like they do, and talking about, about how Ashton is too good for her, and she must have used magic to get him with her big nose and everything, and apparently he must be blind to what she's doing with her antics and things. They were saying that something bad will come of it at the end. And, but then the lady said she has the money, but not him. So it's like he has married this lady for her wealth. And maybe he's just putting up with her as suffrage.
So what do you want us to do, Hengist?
Well, we need to, whilst I'm at the hunt tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, we need, I'll look after Lord Ashton, but I think the three of you should keep an eye on the lady, Harmony Lee, just in case anything happens, because that would be, I would have thought, if anything is going to happen, that will be when her husband's out, as he's a formidable fighter.
But how are we going to do this? Because we would need permission to be in the house, would we not?
We can discuss that tomorrow. She's the lady's asked us the four of us to lunch tomorrow, so we can talk about those things then.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
But you're right. We would need to have. You would need to be in fairly close proximity to prevent anything. After all,
maybe
what happened to the guild mistress times from roofs and things.
Yes, maybe something along the lines of maybe that Gulliver is teaching us something, or Bartleby is being more spiritual and moving her towards Amriel or something like that, and I could be just there to look after them.
Yes, or you could be attached to their household in some, as you were saying, in some form temporarily. But anyway, we should probably get back into the party before we're missed.
While I'm out here, Hasra wants to look at the side of the building he's at and just make a note and just look and see if there's any easy access to the roofs or to the windows, higher up to trellises, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's actually just how you suspected. I mean, there seems to be no heavy security in this place at all. You can see that there's various trestles put up that, or vines or trees or whatever, that anybody could quite easily climb up. The windows currently, roundabout, are actually open. They seem to believe in the freshness of air, and so you probably think that anybody could stealth into this place, and if they had a good climbing skill, they could be up to the second floor, and even the windows don't look on the ground floor don't look like, probably just shuttered and as a latch put down rather than locked.
Yeah, I'll relay that to everybody.
So is it the plan you want to go back into the party, or make your apologies? Or some people are leaving now, and heading off, some of them you might even think might be going to several parties tonight, and at each one claiming their allegiance to the house, as they go around. But things are sort of like a lot quieter in the room, and people now, that humdrum of the party has gone. Most people are in the kitchen drinking alcohol or something, or talking. But yeah, if there's anything in particular that you would like to go back to the party, then you can do that, or you can head back to your accommodation.
Is there anything you need before Hengist? Because I would like to get a little bit of sleep and maybe pick up my spear before tomorrow.
No, of course. If you're finished, then by all means you can go. You can always stop by at mine, and my butler will let you in if needed.
That is good. I thank you for the invitation, Hengist, but I prefer the quiet of the trees. But I will see you early tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Gulliver will wait on Hengist for when Hengist says it's time to leave. He'll wait until then.
So Hengist will head back into the party briefly, just to try and find Lord Ashton, just to thank him for inviting him.
Yeah. And you sort of like
follow for that sort of thing.
Yeah, and you sort of like head back in, and you sort of like he's sort of like there talking to his other sponsors, and he sort of like shakes you strongly by the hand and says, "I'm so pleased that you have actually accompanied us. We have great promise that we will get Tusker. My wife tells me that you are coming for luncheon tomorrow. That will be absolutely fantastic.
Yes,
I'm so pleased."
I'll see you there. I'll see you tomorrow for lunch. And thank you again for the invitation to the party.
The pleasure will be.
This
all
video
mine.
is made possible.
It will be all my pleasure.
Thank you, and I'll see you tomorrow. And then with that, Hengist will depart.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, see you later, Sloth. So you all head back to your abodes. Could you just roll me all a perception roll, just as you're heading back? See whether or not anybody notices anything. Oh, yes. So let's have a look. Bartleby, Gulliver, no, unless you want to use a point of luck.
No, thank you.
No, and Yeah, every one of you, apart from Gulliver, actually notices something as you leave. As you sort of like go down the main path that you came down, that you queued in before, as you go down the path, something catches your eye over to one side. It seems to be some kind of a shadow. It looks almost like large dog size, and it seems to be moving with a purpose. And you sort of like catch it in your peripheral vision, and it's quite spooky because all three of you, apart from Gulliver, who didn't notice this, also you all sort of like look over to one side, and you sort of like peering into the darkness past the bright flaming torches that are put up, and you could swear that you actually saw something just outside the torchlight. You sort of like stop for a moment and carry on looking, straining out your eye, but you can't see any more movement, and you're not too sure whether or not it was actually a flickering light or whether or not it was definitely seemed to be moving with a purpose. And like I say, it's sort of like Alsatian size, so not Great Dane size, more Alsatian size. You make your way back to your accommodation and turn yourself in for the night, and you have quite a good night's sleep. And you know, if you had some wine, then that helps you drift off, but makes you wake up early, and you feel well fed, and you sort of like take off your posh clothes and put back on what you would normally wear, almost like your working gear. And you've been invited back to the accommodation for luncheon, which is served just about 1 or 2 bells in the afternoon, so shortly after lunch. Is there anything that you would like to do before you actually go to luncheon?
Well, I'll be changing my white outfit to my usual grey outfit. It's all cleaned. It's nice. It's still pristine. It's basically a grey outfit on.
Yeah.
And I will be collecting my spear when I'm back at home and bring it with me.
So I presume from this point onwards, you will be in your normal adventuring gear.
Yes, indeed.
Since you now got a job. Anybody else wish to do anything else before you head back for luncheon?
Hengist will probably in the morning, when his butler is or his servant is preparing the meal, he'll ask. He said, "Do you know if there's any House Galot has any known enemies? I know they have obviously the rivalries with the other 2 main houses, but are there any specific cases that you would know?"
Yeah, about? And your butler sort of like lets out quite a sort of like artificial chortle and goes, "Ha ha ha, Master, you jest. The majority of people's houses, members of houses, are constantly at each other's throats, whether or not it's mortally or just spreading idle gossip. You know how nobility can be like, what they can be like, unlike yourself, good sir."
Yes, of course. Has there been any sort of like more recent rumours or...
It is a great boar hunt, sir. Everybody is after everybody else, trying to surpass them, trying to encourage them to drop out or even to not participate. You know, a house would be looked on very unfavourably if it wasn't actually participating in the Great Boar Hunt. And of course, the person who actually takes the kill, or maybe Tusker himself, you know, that would be a great honour for a house, and will probably indicate a lot of people coming to the house to trade with them and offer their services.
I see, thank you. That is more or less what I thought. is good to have.
Will Sir be wanting clean underwear for today?
I think so. Yes, please.
Yes. I will do my best.
But thank you.
Anybody else wish to do anything before?
No.
Okay then. So you probably meet at the Hairy Hobgoblin and sort of like get together before you make your way up to the house. And you notice that as you approach the house, the flaming torches are still there, but they're snuffed out yet, and the grass looks quite trodden on, as if there's been sort of like people rolling about on it, or trampling all over it. And you're met by Perry at the door as you sort of like approach, and he opens the door, and you suddenly notice that he moves to one side and seems to be looking past you and sort of like out. What would
None of us going to look round. So what's he looking at?
Yeah, and you sort of like look round, Gulliver. Just roll your perception. You can see it, but I just need to see how much information you get. You look round, and you see somebody they've been running across the grass towards the gate, and they've just got to the gate. So they probably came into view as they came round, and now run through the gate and is heading along. And as you look at them, look at the person, you remember where you've seen this person before as they disappear into the crowd. And you've seen that person before because it was the person leaving the manor last night when you arrived, in such a way that he or she or it was wearing exactly the same clothes, and that you sort of like see it with exactly the same flamboyant clothes, sort of like disappearing into the crowds of Lindo. And Perry sort of like tuts and says, servants nowadays, you can't get them a good one at all. And he sort of like opens the door for you and he invites you in. He signals to what appears to be almost like an umbrella stand, and offers that any weapons that will be difficult to carry can go in there. You notice just in this back room down here, I'll move you all into it. This is the room that you're going to have luncheon in.
So the person that we've just seen running out the house was the same person that we saw running out the house as we were going into it last night?
Yeah, so last night you saw him running out of the house. This time you saw him hurl it. It looked like they probably come out of a different place in the house, then done a diagonal run across the
lawn.
Yeah, the lawn, to sort of like get out of the gate. Probably came from the side of the mansion that you were in, that you went for that secret meeting with.
Perry referred to him as a servant.
Yeah, he didn't refer. It was almost like a global term that he was using, and sort of like commented as if to say, you can't get the stuff nowadays. He didn't seem to roll an insight.
I didn't know whether or not he was saying that it was a servant, or maybe
yeah.
it was maybe
almost like he refers to everybody else as servant.
Yeah, so,
or had the nobleman had actually copped off with one of the servants.
Yeah, so roll your insight, and then Yeah, you think he was saying it as if a whole load of servants today, as if they were saying kids. If that makes sense. Obviously, somebody that he doesn't see the person as a threat. He just sort of like sees them as somebody or almost like messing around, and sort of like said, just like we might say, "Oh, the youth of today." He was sort of like say, "Oh, servants," you know. But Gulliver, you recognise that this person was too finely dressed to be a servant.
That's why I thought. That's why I couldn't understand the servant bit.
Yeah. So you're taken to the dining room. You can hopefully see yourself all sat down. If you would like to Hengist, you'll probably be closer to the lady than Bartleby.
Gulliver's happy with where he is at the moment. He'll spend his time watching.
I thought Hasra was sitting on Bartleby's lap
No,
there.
no. I'm watching Bartleby swap places with me because I'm the same as Gulliver in a sense. I'm not comfortable. I would be at the end of the table.
There you go.
Thank you.
That would cause a stir in certain circles.
Yeah, so you're sort of like you're making almost like small talk as the dishes are brought in, and Harmony Lee turns to you, Bartleby, and says, "Oh, I had the best night's sleep ever last night. Thank you for that that blessing you bestowed onto me. It certainly made my sleep very relaxing."
But it was especially because Amriel's full face was out last night, giving all light and glory to the land.
Well, she definitely smiled on me. Thank you once again. Which of Hengist's retainers are you?
I am Bartleby Fumus.
Oh, and are you a healer?
Indeed. Taking most of my training to become a full priest of Amriel, but I'm still an initiate.
She sort of like turns to you, Hengist, and says, "You obviously have quite a bit of money, Hengist, to employ such valuable retainers. We have yet to manage to secure a healer to our house. As you know, their prices are quite hefty."
Bartleby is most generous and with his time and most skilled as well.
Hengist has saved me many, many times in the face of danger. I owe him a debt of sorts.
You mean he does not charge? She says to Hengist.
Well, as Bartleby says, I have saved his life a few times, and so he is.
Oh, he has an oath to protect and serve you.
Not quite exactly that way.
She sort of like turns to you, Bartleby, and says, "Forgive me for asking, Bartleby Fumus, how much is your rates? Are your rates?"
I don't typically charge. Much of my work is done in the lower sides of Lindo. I seek to end suffering for all people in Lindo.
Please consider yourself employed here as well. Thank you so much for your free service. Your retainers are so helpful and cheap. Yes, I am so pleased. It is nice to have a healer on our books. I am excited to tell Lord Ashton that we have a healer here now as well.
I'm afraid much of my time is still in the lower.
Soup
window.
comes on the table.
$1 gajillion.
I think this is chicken. The cock Alfredon has a great deal to explain, and there's probably leftover vol au vents in this soup. And everybody, so she sort of like takes a spoonful of it and then relaxes. Master Hengist, please do tell me about your other retainers. Will they have services that they give for free as well?
They each have their own price.
Yes, so
but,
I've heard.
But Gulliver over there at the other side of the table is a very skilled sorcerer in the Order of the Kraken.
She sort of like looks over to you, Gulliver, and say, "Oh, we have not got a sorcerer on our books at the moment. Pray, Gulliver, how much do you charge?"
I'm not looking at joining a book.
You should consider signing up to a great house like ourselves. You have much to offer.
I've already given myself to the Order of the Kraken.
Oh, that's what I'd like to see. Proud uniqueness. Well done, Gulliver. Unlike people who, and she sort of like glances over at Bartleby, who will give themselves up to almost anybody at any time. She sucks in some soup.
Gulliver's good to sort of like lean over towards Bartleby, and he's going to say, "I thought retainer meant friend."
Nothing means anything in Upper Lindo.
Yeah, Bartleby's just completely confused about what's happening. From being, he'll probably sign away his life in a minute. And Master Hengist, what about the quilted gentleman?
This is Hasra, a noble and famous warrior from the...
Oh, a fellow noble. It is good to have you, Sir Hasra. She sort of like shouts at you as if you're deaf, but really she thinks you're stupid.
Very, very welcome to be here, my lady.
Oh my! What a harsh, deep accent you have.
Why, thank you. All of us from northern steps have the same sort of accent. It's the way we talk.
Yes, I understand what the word accent means, but thank you for enlightening me. Pray tell, she talks to you, Hengist. What does Hasra do in your group?
He is a very skilled tracker and warrior.
He will be useful, therefore, in the Great Boar Hunt. Maybe he can track down the mighty Tusker himself.
It's more than likely well within his skill set.
Yes, I see he has a rather big pole as well.
That is very true.
Do not mention Grandma's hole at this point.
My pole has been nowhere near Grandma's hole.
And these are like the next luncheon. The meal comes in, and there's wine and water. There's rare cheeses being brought in, and cold meats. There's leftovers from the food beforehand, and everything seems to be going along quite nicely. And you've had, those of you who drink have had some wine. You're not intoxicated or anything like that, but you're getting that nice warm glow. And it's just about to go on to dessert, when you all hear no need for a perception roll of this. You hear this almighty female scream. It seems to be coming from into the main hall and sort of like up the stairs, and you can hear the bouncing of footsteps, and people are crying and saying, "Oh dear, oh my," and things like that. And just as you hear the scream, you notice that Harmony Lee pushes the chair back and stands up in one fair swoop, and she sort of like looks to you, Hengist, and you see that the colour has drained from her face. What would you like to do?
So Hengist will also stand up and say, "My lady, are you right? Shall we..." That sounds like we should be going.
Gulliver's up and running.
Yeah, Hasra's ahead of him as well.
So, as you, Gulliver, as you sort of like go out into the entrance hall, there you notice that there's quite. It's not really busy, But there's servants moving around, and Perry seems to be giving. Is stood at the in the atrium and sort of like he's sort of like looking left, right, and he sort of like sees you and Hasra come out of the dining room and sort of like walks over to you both, and he sort of like looks at you both and says, "Please, where is your master?"
The scream. Where was the scream from?
I need to talk to your master.
He's.
Man, tell us where the screen came from now.
I am dreadfully sorry. I answer only to the lady or your master, and he sort of like just walks past you.
Where do the servants sort of like? Can I make a perception check to see whether or not I can tell where it might have been from? I.e., are the servants sort of like coming down the stairs in a hurry, sort of like looking back up or doing glances or looking out?
Okay, then roll a perception check. It's going to be quite difficult to notice this just because of them all running around. But you
got formidable.
And there's definitely something that's happened upstairs. You can see that there's these stairs here and over here lead up to the floor above, but then there seems to be two wings to the house, sort of like the north wing and the southern wing, and there's people sort of like running down the stairs and anything. So,
well, as somebody runs down, Hasra wants to grab them and say, "Tell me where."
Yeah, and it's sort of like as somebody rushes down, you sort of like grab them. Let's see who it's actually going to be. Yeah, it's one of the little girl maids. Gulliver, you recognise it as Lizzie, and Hasra, you're really good with young children, aren't you?
I'm brilliant.
You sort of like, as this Lizzie runs past, you sort of like grab her by her arm and you sort of like jerk her, and she sort of like goes off to one side, and she looks really frightened. What would you like to do?
Tell me where this happened.
Where what, sir?
Why are you running?
I've been told to get back to the kitchen.
From where? Where have you come from?
I was upstairs making beds, sir.
Down this same wing? You said up here?
He's just sort of like pointing.
Yes, in the general direction where she's come from.
She says, yes, I was making the beds in the bedrooms.
So why are you crying? What is wrong? Why are you screaming and crying?
You're hurting my arm.
Well, tell me why you're screaming.
Harmony Lee comes out and Perry's gone in, and she sort of like sees you handling this young girl, and she sort of like looks over to Hengist and says, "Please follow me. I know where my own bedroom is."
Of course, I'll follow you, my lady.
Yeah, and you sort of like, are you dragging Lizzie with you?
No, I will.
And she's
go,
sort of like
go along your way, child.
She sort of like rubs her arm and looks at Gulliver as if to say, "Why didn't you do something to save me from this brute?" And you go up the stairs and you go off to the north wing, and you stop in front two rather big. It's a double door. And there's one on one side of the room, or a corridor, and the other on the opposite side of the room. And you can figure out that you're probably in the family's wing rather than the servants' wing, which is the southern wing. And these seem to be like two bedrooms, and the doors to your left as you go up are open. And you can see that there's a four-poster bed in there. It looks very eloquent, very rich furnishings and everything. And the door to the right, you notice that there seems to be almost like a trainee butler, not the actual butler, maybe just a male servant, and the door is closed, and he's sort of like on guard. He's not doing a very good job of it. He seems rather shaken and rather scared, and as he moves towards as Harmony Lee sort of like moves to the doorway, he sort of like looks worried, looks at Perry, and you notice Perry goes like that, and Perry says, "My lady, I don't think," and she just sort of like bursts open the door, and you all sort of like congregate and look into the room, and in the middle of the bed, on what appears to be pure white sheets, there's two things that you see. The first thing that you see is a high amount of blood on the actual sheets, and you're trying to figure out what the mass is on the middle of the bed. And as you sort of like go into the room, it suddenly becomes clear that in the middle of the bed appears to be some kind of raven, of claw, or a crow or something like that. It looks like its little legs have been snapped open, and you sort of like see it, and you're puzzled for a while. Why is there so much blood? Until you notice as you get closer that the raven has no head at all, and blood has just been seeping out across the bed. And
Gulliver wants to go over to the window. He wants to move over to the window, and he wants to see whether or not it's open or locked.
Okay then, so we'll stop it there for tonight. I'll just say this: all of you can see the windows up here are all closed, but from where you are, Gulliver, you walk over to the window. It's closed. It's just a simple shutter, but anything could have been opened, and they're not locked or fastened or anything like that. And just as you, Gulliver, you go in and do that, and the rest of you staring at the bed, and Harmony Lee gazes at it, and you notice that she's very shaken, very worried, and she turns to you, Hengist, and says, "The girls," and we'll leave it there. For this week. Yeah, so we will pick it up from this. So Gulliver be over at the windows. The rest of you are just inside the door with Harmony Lee and the butler Perry, and and the hideous sight that greets you on the bed. And then of course Harmony Lee says, "The girls." And then that's it. Thank you, Garage, for the die. I don't have the extra on this one, so it won't actually sound off.
Wasted coins.
No, die's free. There's no coinage for die. It's totally free of charge. I give it for nothing. Yeah, so well done, folks. You have got into an interesting predicament. It would appear that Bartleby's now
selling himself cheaply.
Yeah, went to
God gives willingly.
Yeah, went to a party and ended up with sort of like double.
But they are all willing applicants for the House Galot.
Yeah, he's spreading the word. So yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed watching our game tonight as much as we have enjoyed playing it. Please, if you have, please come back and join us next week when we can see what actually happens. If you want to catch up with any of our past adventures, then you can find them all on the YouTube channel. I've put the link in the chat for you, along with my adventure reflections when I go back and talk about the adventure. And don't forget, if you want to have a look at my adventure notes, then they are all on my webpage, which is inwills.co.uk.
Are the notes for this adventure on there as well?
Not yet. Not
Damn
yet.
you.
But yes, they're all free there. You can download them if you wish, or you can make a small donation to my creative content creation business. And just to let you know, they are notes. They're not the full adventure. And a lot of the time I seem to write an adventure and we end up going in a completely different direction than what I thought we were doing in any case. But
no adventure is a corridor.
Yeah, so it's going good so far. So we'll be back. I'll be back streaming tomorrow for some ESO in the afternoon, then Overwatch on the night. Sorry I haven't been around today, I've been at work. But I was going to have 2 weeks and then a week off. But this morning I've had to cancel that week because they need me to do some work. So I think I'm going to have 4 weeks work, and then I think I've got 2 weeks and 4 days off. So that'd be nice over in Easter, so we can get some really exciting adventures done. There was somebody on the news today that is something like she's really young, but she's actually had her 100th birthday today, but because she was born on a leap year, so she's actually sort of like 25 or something like that if she counts the number of days.
It's fake day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fake day.
Yeah.
It's made up day.
Yeah, I saw Andy, who is Master Jedi Obi-Wan, saying, challenge for you all. On the 30th and 31st on this month, do not play any computer games. And I said, yeah, I'm in there. I'll do that. Not a problem. So please do come back next week. I hope you've enjoyed it tonight. Thank you to my players for coming into the world and playing tonight. I really do appreciate that. And I will catch you all tomorrow. Until then, please remember to be who you are and say what you think, because the people who mind don't matter and the people who matter don't mind. Have fun, everyone, and we will catch you later. And until then, happy Mythrasing. See you all later, people. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Oh, that was just...
Bye.